Welcome to this video. Thank you for taking interest in our tutorial on how to use OfficeOn. OfficeOn is a clever software designed for tradespeople of all kinds. You can create invoices and quotes within minutes, keep an eye on schedules and appointments, and you can use it to record your working hours, whether you're in the office or at the job site. Before we go into all of the features OfficeOn has to offer, let's first cover the basics and learn to navigate the application. On the left-hand side of your browser window, you'll find the main menu. From here, you have direct access to all areas of OfficeOn. It can be shown or hidden with one click, so if you are ever unable to find the main menu, it's most likely because it has been collapsed. If you'd like to contact the OfficeOn support team or search for help in the OfficeOn manual, you can click the speech bubble icon in the bottom right corner of your screen. Here, you'll also find a variety of useful links related to OfficeOn. I've divided this tutorial into chapters to help you follow along. Using the timeline below the video, you can jump back and forth as you like, making it easy to skip certain chapters or watch them again. Right, that was the intro. Let's start with Chapter 1. Initial Setup. You open up the app for the first time. How do you configure the OfficeOn software in order to work within your business? It takes 3 simple steps to enter all of your data. This setting up process only has to be done once. But if you'd like to see OfficeOn in action first, feel free to skip this chapter for the moment and come back to these settings at a later time. We'll first insert your logo. If you want your quotes and invoices to look just as good as this one, follow my instructions and set some preferences. In the main menu, search for Settings, and then select Texts and Layout from the submenu. Make sure the Show Logo toggle is activated. Then, click on the Upload Logo button and navigate to the folder where your logo is stored to upload it. Note that your logo file must not be larger than 0.4 megabytes. You can also adjust the position and size of your logo, but I will leave it unchanged. Below the logo settings, you can make changes to the footer section. To display it in your documents, make sure to activate the Show Footer toggle if it's turned off. Next, fill in the relevant information in the designated text fields. I've already entered mine before starting this video. Above, you'll find the introductory and closing texts for quotes and invoices, which you can customize if you'd like. I'll leave them as the default texts for now. Below the closing texts, you can specify if the retention notice for private customers should be displayed. That covers the texts and layout. I'll save my changes by clicking Save in the top right corner. Now, let's switch to the Communication tab. In the email settings, I will enter the email address that my customers can use to contact me later. When creating an appointment for your customers in OfficeOn, you have the option to automatically send them an SMS appointment reminder. You can set the content of this reminder here. I'll leave the text as it is and only change the phone number and sender. I will save these changes as well. Now, let me show you how to set up your tax rates, and then we can get started tackling your office tasks. First, go to the Billing submenu in the settings. Enter your current quote and invoice numbers. My quote numbers, as suggested here, always start with a Q followed by the current year. However, I only use the last 2 digits of the year, so I'll delete the 20 here. My last quote number was 42. I will enter this under Starts With. The same applies to invoice numbers. The numbers will then automatically increase by 1 each time you create a new quote or invoice. Under Tax Rates, you'll find the default tax rates that are preset. You can, of course, edit them as needed. For example, you can add new tax rates or delete existing ones. All of this looks good to me, so I'll not be making any changes today. As always, I hit Save to apply my preferences. And that covers all the basic settings you need. If you want to, you can always go back and modify your data or replace graphics. That way, you can change your logo anytime. From this point onward, I will guide you through a complete use case in OfficeOn, from customer creation to project and appointment planning. We'll be creating quotes and tracking working hours and learning how to use documentation and invoicing. Finally, we'll export all the relevant data and send it on to the accountant. To show you all the necessary steps you'll need for your day-to-day tasks without making this video longer than needed, we'll be working on a simple job that involves just some molding. All set? Let's go! Creating a customer. In this chapter, you'll discover how to easily add new customer data to your OfficeOn database. Select the Customers tab in the main menu. My list already has some entries. Should yours still be empty, you can either fill it in manually, I'll show you how to do that in a moment, or have your entire pre-existing customer database imported by the OfficeOn support team. Remember our molding project? This job came from a prospect who hasn't done any business with us before. They haven't been stored in our customer database yet, so let's create a new customer by clicking on New Customer in the top right corner of the screen. You see this plus sign here? It's very useful. If you want to add a new entry to any list you're currently working on, look out for a button that has a plus sign on it. It will create a new project in the Projects tab, a new appointment in the Appointment tab, and so on. After clicking the plus sign, a form will open where you can enter the customer details. In this case, I want to create a business customer. If you want to create a private customer, you need to select that option first, and you will then receive different input fields accordingly. Address fields in OfficeOn are linked to a mapping service. That way, anytime you enter address data, you'll be provided with suggested address completions. As you can see, it works like a charm. Here it is. That's the address I'm looking for. To add additional customer or contact information, click Show Details, and if needed, Show Contact Details. This can be helpful for keeping precise information and contact details about your customer. For demonstration purposes, we'll skip entering those details and create the customer directly. To do this, I'll click on Create, and we have our new customer. By clicking on the pencil icon, I can always come back and make changes, such as adding additional information or modifying the data I've already entered. I also have the option to add more addresses and contacts for this customer. To do this, I simply click the plus sign in the top right corner of this box. Very convenient in case you need to add a different billing address or specify the location of the job site. For now, however, the address I've already entered will be sufficient. Now let me show you something exciting. In OfficeOn, many features are interconnected. For example, you can directly create appointments, quotes, and invoices from a customer profile or access related projects. Only one of many ways OfficeOn will save you time. Creating a project. Now back to the project at hand. A project in OfficeOn works just like a folder, where you store appointments, quotes, and invoices. This is also the place where miscellaneous documents are created, managed, and kept for later use. Creating a project is especially helpful for longer tasks. This way, all relevant content is stored in only one accessible tool. To create a new project for the customer I just added, there are two options. I can either click on Add in the top right of the customer details and select Project, or I can open the project list via the main menu. As we've already learned in Chapter 2, I'll go into the top right corner and click the plus icon. If this is the first time you're seeing me use this button, feel free to jump back to Chapter 2 and learn more. First, I'll assign a name to this project by simply typing into the project title field. The date is always preset to the current day. Let's say I want to set the date of receipt to a different day. I can do so by using the calendar icon. The project description is optional, as the field suggests. Here, I could enter key details about the project, but I'll leave this blank for now. Since I created the project through the project list, I need to select a customer. If I had created it through the customer details page, OfficeOn would have automatically known for whom the project was created. However, OfficeOn helps me here as well, by displaying customer suggestions matching the first few letters I type into the field. Now I click on Create, and we've successfully created a project for our new customer. Thanks to integrations in OfficeOn, you can directly create appointments, quotes, and invoices from the project view, or access the associated customer. Good to know. Object lists. Here I'll briefly pause the work on my project to explain how to use an important feature OfficeOn has to offer: object lists. To return back to the project list from the project details, I can either click on the back arrow or select Projects in the menu bar. In case you already have several projects in your list, OfficeOn offers the option to filter lists. This applies not only to projects, but also to appointments, quotes, and other object lists. For this example, I'll click on All Projects and select the filter New Project. As you can see, my newly created project with this customer now appears at the top of the list. I'll reset the filter to show you another way to quickly find objects in large lists. Specifically by sorting the list, I'll select the sorting option Last Change. Even now, my newly created project is at the top of the list. If I want to find the project with the oldest change, I simply click on Last Change a second time to sort the objects in reverse order. You can tell the direction in which the list is sorted by whether the arrow next to the sorting option is pointing up or down. In addition to Last Change, there are other sorting options available, such as Title, Number, Status, and more. I'll sort by Last Change again. Every object list, in this case the project list, has a three-dot menu next to each object. Through this menu, I can perform object-related actions. For example, I can view, edit, complete, or cancel my project. If I select View, I will return to the project details page of the project I just created. The button in the top right now allows me to perform additional project-related actions. For example, I could upload related documents, such as a measurement sheet, to store all important documents in one central location. This ensures that I maintain an overview even for larger projects. Let's go back and continue working on our project. We've already created the new customer as well as the project we'll be working on. Next step would be scheduling a site visit. We can create a quote once we've gathered all information. Sounds good? Let's start with the next chapter. Scheduling an appointment. First, navigate to the object list for appointments. To do this, I select Appointments in the main menu. You may have already noticed that the Appointments menu is different from the menus we've seen so far. It has submenus. In addition to the classic object list, I can also view my appointments in a calendar or map view. In the calendar view, I can quickly see which employee is available at any given time. If I want to focus on a single day, I can switch to Day View in the top left corner. Using the arrow buttons, I can move back and forth between days. By clicking on the date display, I can also select a specific day from the calendar. If I want to switch to today's date, I simply need to click on Today. And just like that, I'm back in the present. In the menu where it currently says All Team Members, I can filter the calendar to show only the appointments for one or more specific employees. Alternatively, I can choose to view all employees who haven't been assigned an appointment for the selected time. If you followed my instructions when we were talking about object lists, you already know how to work with filters. If you need a little reminder on how OfficeOn uses filter functions, you can go back and have a look at the previous chapter. If I schedule an appointment for an employee who is already booked at that time, OfficeOn will display a scheduling conflict. This ensures I don't assign them to multiple appointments at the same time. The map provides a great overview for when and where I have scheduled appointments. This helps me plan efficient routes throughout the day, minimizing time wasted on long travel. However, I'm going to use the object list. If you've seen the previous chapters on customers and projects, you already know how this works. I click on the plus sign in the top right corner to create a new appointment. If you're not familiar with this plus sign yet, I recommend going back to Chapter 2. You can assign a project and a customer to each appointment. When you select the project, the corresponding customer and location data will be automatically filled in, as you can see here. Now I give the appointment a title, set start and end dates, and enter the time. Visiting the job site will take about an hour. When planning appointments that take up the whole day, you can simply toggle this switch instead of entering specific times. Reoccurring appointments are scheduled using the drop-down menu. Now to assign an employee to the appointment. This employee must, of course, have already been added to OfficeOn. However, new users can only be added by an owner of the application. For more information, see our support page. Under Description, you can leave an internal order description for your employee, which will not appear on the work slip. This could simply be a useful note. If you've selected a customer for the appointment, you can send them an automatic appointment confirmation via SMS. To do this, toggle the Send SMS Reminder switch. If a mobile number has been saved for the customer, it will be automatically filled in. If not, just enter it manually. As soon as you hit Save, your customer will receive an SMS with information about the date, time, and location. OfficeOn will also send a notification to all employees that were assigned to the appointment through the web or the mobile app. By the way, when creating a new appointment, you can also create a new customer or project. Your office staff can generate quotes and invoices directly from the appointment. On site, your team can record their working hours within the appointment documentation. Creating a quote. By now, my employee has already completed the site visit. The measurements have been taken and the customer is asking to move forward. In order to proceed, they'll need a quotation. Let's create it together. You can import labor and material cost into OfficeOn. Materials and services you sell most often can easily be added to your catalog. This is a very convenient way of keeping prices and availability on hand. Entering materials manually is of course also an option. Make sure to stick around to learn how. Let's now create our quote. I select the Quotes tab in the main menu and click on New Quote. I select the corresponding project, and all other offer details are automatically populated by OfficeOn. Under Services, you'll first see a service group. You can either work with just one service group, or if you want to list material and labor costs separately, for example, add some more by clicking on Add Service Group. First, I want to include labor costs. To do this, I click and select Labor. I estimate my project requires 4 hours of labor, so I enter 4 in the quantity field. Since I entered labor in the type field, OfficeOn has set my unit to hours. Make sure this is also the case for you when calculating labor. This job will be done by a workman, so I enter workman as a title. The hourly rate for workmen is £40. I enter this under purchase price. OfficeOn will calculate the correct total price based on estimated hours and the hourly rate. Under Description, I enter labor effort, so the customer knows what's been calculated here. This item is a standard item. If I want to offer the customer alternative or, if needed, some contingent materials, I can mark the item as alternative or contingent service. These will then not be added to the total amount in the offer. Now I click on Add to Catalogue to make this item, workman's labour at £40 per hour, available in my catalogue. Next time I need to use a workman, I simply enter workman as a description and all fields will be populated automatically. Moving on to material costs. I can add a new item by clicking on Add Service. Under Type, I can specify which type of item I'm offering. For example, the workman will be needing some screws. So I'll set Type to Material and Unit to Set with a quantity of 2. Under Description, I enter self-taping screw. The purchase price for a set of screws is £4, and I'll apply a markup of 20%. The total price including markup now correctly amounts to £9.60. Since I will need to calculate the screws more often, I will also add them to my catalogue. I could continue and list as many items as needed, but to keep this video concise, let's assume that my services are now complete. Discounts and early payment discounts are optional, and in this case I don't need them. I click on Preview in the top left to ensure my offer is complete, and looks the way I want it to. Looks solid to me. I can finalize the offer by clicking on Complete. As you can see, OfficeOn now wants me to know that PDFs are stored securely. Pending quotes can be edited, but accepted quotes are locked for legal reasons. When viewing the quote, I can download a PDF copy using the download icon. I can also click the printer icon to send it via post or send it via email by clicking the envelope. I want to send it via email, so I click on the envelope icon. In this preview, I can check whether all data and text are correct, which they are, and send them off with one click. My customer will receive the quote in their inbox. Once they contact me to accept the quote, I can change its status in OfficeOn from pending to accepted. To do this, I return to the quote list by clicking on Quotes in the main menu. I can find my quote at the very top, as the list is sorted by the most recent change, indicated by the sorting arrow. As expected, the current status is pending. We assume the customer has called to accept the quote, so I'm now changing its status to accepted. To do this, I select it from the list and click on Mark as accepted in the detail view. When creating a new quote, a new project or a new customer can also be added. Once the quote is accepted, a new appointment or invoice can be created directly from the quote. Tracking working hours. The workman has arrived at the customer's location and is starting to work on the project. He's using the mobile version of OfficeOn. The way this app works is that it offers optimized access to essential features tailor-made for on-site use. It has a calendar, offers documentation and time tracking, and even lets your customers sign reports. To document the appointment, the workman opens the OfficeOn app on his smartphone. Here, he finds his personal calendar. Appointments that are still pending can be found under the Planned tab, or if the appointment has already passed, under the Overdue tab. The workman selects the appointment he is about to start working on. To record his hours, he can either tap on Time Tracking or go to Documentation and click the stopwatch next to where it says Work Duration. He taps on the blue button to start the stopwatch and track his work time. Once he taps on the pause button, the duration of the break is recorded, until he taps Start again and continues his work. He taps the stop symbol to end tracking mode. The entry then appears under Work Time and the Time Tracking tab overview. Alternatively, he could also enter his work hours directly under Enter Work Time and add a description. The work time would then automatically be linked to the appointment. If needed, work time entries can also be edited or deleted right from the overview section. Additional information required for proper documentation can be recorded on-site using the Documentation tab within the appointment. Here, workmen can add photos and services and even write a work report. Our workman has already installed the requested molding and now wants to document his work with a photo to demonstrate that it was done correctly. He taps the camera icon next to the Photos option. Once he has taken the photo, he adds a brief note in the description field. The pencil icon allows for markings to be drawn on the photo, but this is not necessary in this case. Finally, he taps on the checkmark to start the upload. Uploaded images and documents will appear in the work report. Files that are not meant to be seen by customers are uploaded in the Project tab. They can only be viewed in the OfficeOn web version while using the Project menu. The workman will now start documenting services. To do this, he presses the plus icon in the appointment interface. Here, he selects Working Time, Materials, or other services through corresponding tabs. Previously recorded working time now has to be documented as a service. He taps the Insert Working Time button to transfer the data. He can also write a brief description, but this is not necessary. He taps on Add to complete the process. Additional material can be documented in the next step. The customer chose to go with aluminium, so the workman enters quantity, unit, and description. He taps on Add to save them to the appointment. The app saves all services that have been entered once, so they can be retrieved in subsequent appointments. Of course, you also have access to catalog items from the web version. Now, the workman taps on the pencil icon to add a work report. He can either type it in or use the microphone icon on his smartphone's keyboard to dictate. Working hours and services have been documented and a report has been written. Time to complete the appointment. To do this, he taps on the button that says Complete. All services he has entered are now listed for confirmation. The workman checks to make sure all services are correctly listed and ticks them off. Then he taps on the blue button to let the customer sign the work report. He taps on Finish Appointment to complete the process. OfficeOn now generates a work report which is available via the web version. It can also be found in the Documented tab when using the mobile app. Before we take a look at the generated work report, we'll first review the workman's time tracking protocol. Let's head over to the main menu. Under Time Tracking, you can find all recording working hours of your employees. Here, I have the option to select a time range, an employee and/or a project, and sort by name or date. I can also select our project from the drop-down menu to find the recorded working hours of our workmen. There it is. As per the quote, it took about 1 hour to complete the job. In the appointment column, we can see that the workman has already transferred his working hours to the appointment. Since we're already here, I'd like to export them as a table. I click on Export, and since I work with Excel, I select Excel file. For most other software, select CSV file. The working hours are now saved as an Excel file in my local downloads folder. Of course, I can also export the working hours of one or multiple employees over a specific period. This can be achieved by using the relevant filter options. First, I'd like to inspect the documentation that's stored inside the appointment to ensure proper execution. Instead of navigating via the main menu, I'll take a different approach and simply click on the hyperlink that's highlighted in blue. In the appointment overview, we can see that the worker has completed the tasks and the appointment is now marked as recorded. Appointments that have not yet been carried out are marked as planned, while appointments that have been completed are marked as done. In our case, all services have been documented and signed by the customer. For privacy reasons, the original signature is only displayed on the actual document. Okay, the job has been completed and all services are documented and signed. We can now issue the invoice. As always, this can be done by using the button in the top right. Just click on Create and then select Invoice. Previously recorded working hours can be inserted into new quotes and invoices. In the tracking menu, time entries can also be filtered by project or exported into Excel or CSV files. Exporting and finalizing the invoice. Creating an invoice is not too different from creating quotations. Since all items have already been created through the appointment, we now only have to verify all the details. If there are any services or materials that have not yet been documented, this is your last chance to add them to your invoice. I want labor and material costs to swap places, so I simply drag and drop this item. Let's check out the preview. Looks fine to me. I click the blue button to finish and confirm that after completion, I will no longer be able to edit this invoice. Just like we did with the quote, I'll send this invoice via email. Everything's looking good, so let's hit send. That's it. Once the customer has paid, I'll go to Invoices in the main menu and look for the corresponding document. As you can see, it is still marked as unpaid. You can also use an invoice draft to create a new customer or a new project, saving you even more valuable time. Exporting data for your accountant. Time to summarize. We've created a customer, then set up a new project and used it to generate a quotation. Based on that, we've planned an appointment and sent our workmen to execute and document the job. In the last step, we've invoiced our customer for the appointment. The only thing that's left to do is to export all the relevant data for the accountant. This is very easy thanks to OfficeOn. Stick around and you will see. In the main menu, we select Data Export. There's plenty of file types to choose from the drop-down menu. Select a time period for which you want to export data. You can then click on Export and choose the format. If you're using Excel, select Export as Excel. In all other cases, click Export as CSV. Congratulations on making it to the end of this video. As you've seen, OfficeOn integrates all essential processes of your business, while everything the app has to offer is interconnected. Projects, customers, quotes, appointments, time tracking, invoices, and catalogs. I hope this gives you a comprehensive overview of all the features in OfficeOn. If you're still feeling a bit unsure, Don't worry, no one becomes an expert overnight. Once you've completed a few initial projects, you'll become a pro in no time. I hope you have lots of fun using our new software and continue success in your business. OfficeOn, software for tradespeople, designed for office and on-site business.